This show is brought to you by Databril, the scalable Amazon PPC management for large Amazon sellers and brands. Visit sellersessions.com/agency for more details. Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Again, we bring back Kevin King. Hey Kevin, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Danny?
Yeah, good. So today, let's have a little chat about conferences. I mean, I speak at a few, but blimey, you've done what, 19 or so this year already, I think it is.
Yeah, something crazy like that.
So why don't we kick off with January this year? Talk about a conference that you know only too well.
Yeah. So, like you said, I've done, I think, about 19 or 20 this year, and a few more coming up. But the first one, well, let me start before we talk about the conference. Why you should actually go to a conference? I know a lot of people in this business are, that you're stuck behind their computer all the time, and you're working, and you're like, I don't have time to go to a conference, or I can't afford to go to a conference. And there's conferences of all different types. There's conferences that are basically free. There's conferences that cost a few $100 or a few $100, and then there's the ones that are $10,000 masterminds. And each type of conference is not for everybody, so you got to kind of pick and choose. But the value of going to a conference is in not only do you learn usually in the courses and the speakers and stuff that are talking, and a lot of times that's stuff that you don't see online on YouTube or in in other courses. It's new, fresh material, but you meet other sellers. It's the networking that's the most valuable. So you can go and you can speak the language of other people. If you're sitting around the dinner table talking to your wife or your husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, sometimes they roll their eyes when you start talking about Amazon. They're like, okay, enough's enough. Let's talk about, something else. These people eat and breathe it.
Yeah.
So it's great to be able to talk to somebody else that understands, the language that we speak, and you can oftentimes get a lot of cool tips and strategies from other people that you meet there, having lunch with them or at the networking parties afterwards, or sitting at the bar, sometimes till 3 a.m, and things are just spilling out of people's mouths. Oh, have you tried this? Have you done this thing? Or you can get a lot of really cool strategies and tactics for that. So always think about, put it in your budget if you can to at least attend one conference a year somewhere near you, or make a vacation out of it. And the good thing is it's a business conference. So, I'm not a tax advisor or an accountant. But you can typically write most of that off, the expenses to do that, as long as you're doing business on the trip. Yeah. So like you're saying, the first one I went to this year was our Illuminati Mastermind, which was in January, and that's an expensive conference. It's a small group, about 75 people. We did that in Hawaii. And what we do with the Illuminati, I'm part of that. I'm one of the main mentors in the Illuminati Mastermind. It's training for people who are already selling, typically about $25,000 a month or more. It's training to help you advance those sales to 2x, 3x, 10x your business. And so what we do at our live conferences, not only is the training really good, and we don't record it, so it's not made available to the public or anything afterwards. We have a lot of really built in, but we also try to make it an experience. So it's not just, hey, let's go and talk business, but we do cool stuff. Like in Hawaii, we took everybody on a helicopter. Not everybody. We took a lot of people on a helicopter tour of the island of Kauai, and we do stuff like go out, go canoeing in the rivers, and we have it's really cool bonding and cool experience. So when you walk away from that, it's not just did you learn something and meet some other cool people, but you had a great time. So a lot of people brought their families or their wife or husband. So it was cool. And so we're doing another one next year. We haven't announced it yet, but it'll be sometime probably in the mid to late spring of next year. But that's a high-end mastermind. So that one's an expensive ticket. And the reason we do it so expensive is it's not a moneymaker for us. It's kind of a break-even type of deal. But people would think, well, you're paying that kind of money, it must be a huge profit. It's really not. It's more about the creating the atmosphere and creating the bonding, and bringing high levels. So it's kind of a vetting, it's to make sure that most of the people there are selling over 6 figures a month. So that's that type of conference. But then, so. Go ahead, Danny.
Yep. So that was January. Was there any other conferences that you were speaking at, attending?
Not in January, no.
So let's move on to February. What was in the diary for them?
And the diary for February. In February, I went out to a non-Amazon conference, Traffic and Conversion. It's a big conference in San Diego. It's
Yeah.
about 6,000 people or so. It
Right.
does have a few things that are Amazon related, but for the most part, it's put on by Digital Marketer
Yeah.
every year. And for the most part, that conference is more like Facebook and Instagram and social media and just digital marketing, email marketing, digital marketing in general. So those types of conferences, I've done a few of those this year as well. Those are good too, because those get you thinking about different things. You know, if you're going to be running on Amazon your PPC, I mean your Facebook ads to drive sales to do launches, or doing stuff with ManyChat that everybody's talking about now. Those kinds of things. And they were talking about ManyChat 2 years ago at
Yeah.
Traffic and Conversion. You know, now it's just become, you know, you're starting to see it really pop up everywhere in the Amazon space. But I knew about it 2 years ago, so that's an advantage. Just going to those things, you're on the cutting edge, and
Yeah.
you can get ahead of everybody else. And also in February, I did another conference as a private mastermind. A guy named Tyrone put it on. As a group of like 20 people. I was a speaker at that, so that was also in San Diego, and that was a really
Yeah.
good
That's
little event.
Tyrone's he's a UK seller, isn't he, Tyrone?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
he
yes,
yeah, well, he's from the UK, sorry, but he sells in the US and he does masterminds and stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
that was
those,
a close knit one, was it?
yeah, that's like 20 people, and that's those are cool too. I like the big ones, and I also like the small ones, the small little intimate ones. You can get a lot out of. I mean, there are different things you can get out of each one, but it's good to do both if you can.
Yeah. And March is a big one, isn't it? Because you got Prosper and a few others. What did you do in
Yeah,
March?
Prosper is one of the bigger shows for the Amazon space. It's kind of it's not official. I wouldn't say it's an official show, but it's a more of a you get a lot of the wholesale people. You get a good cross section of people that come to the Prosper show. It's typically in Vegas. The last couple have been in Vegas.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of booths there. You know, a ton of people exhibiting at that show. It's one of the ones that has the most, you know, exhibitors, so you can find different types of people that support, you know, Amazon sellers. Then it's got a lot of more corporate type of speaking. It's a good event. About 1,500 sellers or something like that over a couple of days. So I was at that one. There was another one called Just One Dime
Yeah.
that was going on in Las Vegas. That was put on by another guy who you have 400 or 500 people.
Isn't it?
Yes, Seth, I think. Yeah, Seth. He has like 400 or 500 people at that one. It was his first one, so it was a little bit different crowd. Some people were the same. And then from there, I went straight to Orlando, and I did. Onyx Segal had one called from Learn, I think, and that was more of like an SEO conference. That wasn't
Yeah.
really Amazon. That was it's like I said, it's kind of like the Traffic and Conversion, where it's, you know, you learn something outside of Amazon, but it's SEO stuff, like how to get your links and stuff or your Shopify site on the page one of Google, and that type of stuff. So that was cool. And then one of the best conferences that non-Amazon conferences, I think, is the ClickFunnels conference.
Right.
I went to that right after that. That was in Orlando, also in March. ClickFunnels, if you're not aware, it's a software that a lot of internet marketers use to drive their sales and everything. But their conference is about 3,000 people, and it's a really good cross section. It's probably, in my opinion, if you had to pick one or two conferences to go to a year, and one of those was a non-Amazon conference, I would probably recommend ClickFunnels, because ClickFunnels, you get all the the very high end Facebook people, the very high end Instagram, the very high end YouTube, the top Amazon sellers. So it's a very good cross section of people, and the speakers there are everything from motivational to really tactical type of people. So that was over 4 days. It's a little bit longer conference, but that one's a really good one.
Cool. And so we've moving on from March, moving into April, May time. What was going on then for you?
Let's see, what did I do in April? In April, we had the SellerCon, which is amazing.com, one of the biggest course sellers in the space. They rebranded their conference and call it SellerCon. That one was in Orlando, and that's probably the biggest conference as of right now in the U.S., probably in the world actually, for Amazon sellers. That conference is pretty good because you get the networking there is top notch, because you get a lot of high end sellers, a lot of guys that have been selling for 4 or 5 years that really know their business, and going out to dinner with them or hanging out at the bar or whatever, gives you some really valuable tips. I walk away from there with a lot of nuggets. And then the conference, the speakers are typically a little bit more practical, more tactical,
Yeah.
versus something like Prosper, which is more general theory, corporate, higher level type of
Yeah.
teaching typically.
Yeah.
So that was really good.
Cool. So, and then rolling into May now.
Let's see what I do in May. In May, Steve Chu has an event in Florida.
Yeah.
The first part of May. It's a smaller event, but it's a whole different crowd. See what happens in in this Amazon space is you get pockets of people,
Yeah.
and so you have some crossover, but there's little pockets of people. So depending on which course somebody took or how they learned or which YouTube people they follow, you kind of get little groups. So that's another reason I've been to so many is because I can go to like Steve Chu's in early May, and it's primarily a completely different crowd than who was at the SellerCon event in April.
Yeah.
And so his was a good little 2-day event over in Florida. And what did I do after that one in May? I went to another private mastermind, Steve Simonson. It's called
Yeah.
Catalyst 88.
That's
And
right. Yeah.
it's about $25,000 per year to be in this. And then what they do is they meet 4 times a year. So it's about 25 or so sellers. It's kind of like invitation only, but then you pay 25 grand for the year, which a lot of people are like, holy cow, $25,000 plus you got to pay there and pay for your hotel. Be like, what the hell, man? That's a lot of freaking money. But that's for a different crowd. That's for people that are already doing really well.
Yeah.
And they can justify a 3-day weekend with 25 other high level sellers because the ideas and the concepts you get and just one little thing can make a $50,000 or $100,000 a month difference in your business that you learn there. So that was a really good event. I spoke at that one. And there's something else in May that I'm forgetting about right now, but
didn't you come up? You was in Europe by the end of May because we see each other in June, either in Germany.
Yeah, I came to Europe in June. I was in Europe for 3 weeks in June.
So let's cover June. Beginning of June, I was with you at Private Label Days over in Germany, wasn't it?
Yeah, Private Label Days is a German one put on by Gil, and you and I were both speakers there.
Yeah.
That was interesting, about 450 people or so. It's a 1-day event over in Hamburg. That I think this was his 3rd one. And so it was a predominantly German crowd. They had a German track. So they had 14 speakers, I believe it was. 7 speaking German and 7 speaking English. So you and I, of course, were on the German side.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was good too. So that I wish that was actually wish that one went on a second day. The little mixer and party afterwards was nice.
Yeah, I missed the party because I couldn't get a flight back later. So I was that was a flying visit. I was there for like 16 hours. I came in late night before, slept, and then I had the event, but I couldn't get a flight out. So I missed that evening. So yeah, no, I'd done the last year as well. There was a few of us who went over, which was like 2 or 3 days we were over, which was brilliant. But yeah, overall still a good event. And then you were over at Scale for Retail, Richard and Shelley in the UK, weren't you?
Yeah. Then I did 3 days with Shelley and Richard. We did 1 day was one Alfred Place there in London. 1 day was for beginners. One day was a little bit more advanced, and then we did a private mastermind day for about 5 hours or so on the 3rd day, and that was real good too. I enjoyed my time there and meeting some good people over in the UK. And then I popped over from the UK after that for an event in Romania, and Romania was a 2-day event, and that event was really good people, really good crowd. I was actually surprised. Some people were like, "What are you doing at an Amazon event? In Romania?" A lot of people like Romania, an Amazon event. I was like, "Yeah." I was shocked. There's about 3,000 or so sellers that have taken a course in Romanian to sell on the European and Amazon marketplaces. And it's a pretty good crowd, and they do a really good job over there. So it's a 2-day event with little mixers and parties and dinners and stuff. So that was really good. A lot of English speaking. I was surprised in Romania. I've been to Europe a lot, all over Europe. I'd never been to Romania, and I was actually surprised at how many billboards and advertisements are on the street and everything were in English. So English is pretty predominant there, at least in the younger crowds.
Yeah. And then there was, where did you go? Was it Prague? No, where was the other place?
No, after that, I went over to the next weekend as an event in Ukraine.
Ukraine,
So,
that's it. Yeah.
yeah, so that one was a 1 day event, but that one was a really nice, really done, really nicely produced event. Igor does that event. I actually had met him at Tyrone's event back in February that we talked about earlier, and he saw me speak there, and he invited me over, and so it was a seven Western speakers, 6 Americans and 1 European. That we spoke and gave a lot of tactics and strategies and stuff, and then afterwards, he had a live band, he had go-go dancers, he had massage chairs, he had it was over the top. It was very well produced, fun event. So that was cool too.
You was there. Who was there? You had Will was over. Will Cherlin was over. Who else was over with you?
Yeah, Will was there, and Ryan Moran.
Yeah,
Corin and Casey Goss, and who am I forgetting? Gil was there. He spoke. Yeah. There's 1 or 2 others. What
I'll do in the show notes, I'll put a list of all of these events and how people can look them up for, to going over next year.
There's a great website if you're looking for events. Our friend Augustus Cuglis has a site. I think it's called
amsummit.com.
AMZ Summits, or with an S or no S. I can't remember.
I can't remember if it's an S or a Z, but it's .com. Yeah. So if you do a search for a Google search, you'll find it. But I will put this all in the show notes as well. That'd be a good reference point for for the other events that people should check out. Where did you go after June? So where are we now? We're just coming in.
We're coming in. We're in July now. So July has been. I'm actually leaving next. In a few days for an event in Las Vegas. There's an event that's put on by Ecom Elite people. Elena Saris got a little mastermind event in Vegas. So I'm speaking at that, and at the same time, the guys from Launchpad have an event. Ben Cummings has an event in Vegas too, for I guess everybody that bought that $10,000 piece of software. That it's at the same time, so I'm gonna maybe pop over there as well. And then right after that, I come back for about a week, and then I'm heading over back across the pond to Amsterdam. There's the guys from Amazing, the CellarCon guys, they have an event in Amsterdam. That's about 300 people or so, so it's not as huge, but it's a little bit more high-level sellers. So that should be good. I'll be over there for a week, and then at the end of August, Ryan Moran has an event here in my backyard here in Austin, which is I think it's called the Brand Builders Summit. It's 2 or 3 days. I'll be at that one, and then there's one in New York in early September. I don't think
Accelerate. Is it the Accelerate with Chad Rubin's event or?
No, it's a different one from Chad's. I didn't. I don't know if I'm going to make the one in September. Got quite a bit going on, but my next one after that for sure is in October. I'll be during the Canton Fair at Global Sources, which I know you've spoken at before.
Yes.
I'll be speaking there, and then then after that I'm not sure. The fall typically there's not quite as many conferences. Yeah. The conferences tend to be more in the spring and early summer seems to be where they're heavily weighted. I know capitalism.com, that's another one that's not an Amazon conference, but it has a lot of Amazon people. It's usually in December here in Austin, but he moved it to January in Dallas for next year, so I'll be at that. And then we'll have our next Illuminati and possibly even a Freedom Ticket conference potentially next year. And then I know Tyrone is working on a big conference for the UK, about 1,000 people or so, and he's trying to put together over for the spring. So I'm sure I'll be over there for that.
Yeah, I mean, there is a few more things starting to pop up in the UK now and in Europe. So it's good. It's like the infrastructure is starting to build a bit more, because obviously I've always said to you that it's never been short on events in the US, but there's been less going on in the EU. So it's good that Tyrone's like backing an event of that size, like 1,000 people,
Yeah, and
which is
you have a bunch of other ones we didn't even mention here. A lot of software people. Feedvisor puts on an event, like you
yeah,
just mentioned. Chad Rubin from Scubana does an event,
yeah,
and then the guys over at Seller Labs, they do their one called Resonate or Reson something like that. I went to
yeah,
it last
resonate.
year,
Yeah,
but I couldn't make it. Couldn't make it this year, but I went to it last year.
yeah. I'm
Um,
speaking at Limworks, another software. I'm speaking at their event in where is it? It's in Birmingham. At the Birmingham Academy, I think it is. That's in September. They've got as their guest of honor. I'm doing the keynote and some panels and stuff. Their guest
oh,
of honor
awesome.
is Deborah Meadham, who is one of the Dragon's Den. I'm sure you've heard of a Dragon's Den over in the US. I know you've got your own kind of
Yeah, we call it Shark Tank here, but
that,
yeah, it's in Canada and the UK. It's called Dragon's Den.
exactly. Cool. Right. So, how can people reach you?
How can they reach me? AMZ, as you say in England, AMZ, or I would say AMZ,
Yeah.
marketer.com.
Yeah.
AMZmarketer.com is probably the best way to find out more or to reach me, or freedomticket.com or illuminatimastermind.com.
Sounds good. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. You're probably going to need a break from all these conferences. I take it you're going to take a year off next year, are you? Or?
Next year I won't do as many conferences. Yeah, this is the year of conferences. And next year I'll be a little bit more picky and choosy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so depends on, some of them I attend and a lot of them I speak at, but there's one. You know what? We missed one. A good one, and back in February, I totally forgot it. ASGTG,
Right.
which is Ed Rosenberg does that conference in New York and it's a really good one. It's aimed at the Jewish seller crowd.
Yes.
It's not just for Jews, but it's aimed at the Jewish seller crowd, and that's a really cool one-day conference too.
Yeah.
Totally spaced that one out. I'm sure there's some others I missed in that list. I was doing it from memory,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's done quite a few.
No worries, guys. We'll put all of this in the show notes. We'll get it all listed down. We'll put Augustus's site in the show notes as well. So then people can obviously take a look and pick and choose their conferences in their local area for next year. Kevin, again, thank you for joining us, guys. Thank you for joining us. If this is your first time, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I'll see you again in a few days. Take care.